You're 3 days out of Miami. The nearest coastline is somewhere over the horizon, and between you and it is a lot of water and no law enforcement of any kind. Somewhere in the back of your mind, and maybe near the front of someone else's, there's a thought that's been floating around for decades that out here, the rules are different, that international waters are a kind of gap, a loophole with waves. So what actually happens if someone commits a crime on a cruise ship in international waters? The short answer is that the gap doesn't work the way most people picture it. The longer answer is considerably more interesting. Start with the moment something happens. A fight breaks out near the pool bar. Something goes missing from a cabin. Someone gets hurt. Within minutes, sometimes faster, ship security is involved. And here's the first thing most passengers don't know. The security team on a large cruise ship is a trained professional unit with full access to a CCTV network that covers nearly every public space on the vessel. They're not decorative. They have evidence preservation protocols. They have a direct line to the bridge. When they respond, they're not winging it. They're running a playbook. Most people's instinct, if they found themselves at the center of something like this, would be to go back to their cabin and wait it out, which raises the obvious question, can the ship actually make you do anything out here? The captain can lock you up right now. No warrant, no attorney present, no charge formally filed. Maritime law, which is old and specific and has been quietly running the waterways longer than most legal systems, grants the captain authority to detain anyone on board. That means confining a person to their cabin or putting them in a designated secure holding space near the security office. Most large cruise ships maintain one. The civil liberties instincts you carry from life on land simply don't apply at sea. The captain's authority is immediate, and it looks nothing like a conventional arrest. Which is around the point where the obvious follow-up arrives. Okay, but whose law? If you're 300 miles off the coast of Florida on a ship with a Bahamian flag, which is exactly what most major cruise ships are, what jurisdiction are you actually in? Not a void, that's the answer, and this is the part that tends to catch people off guard. The flag state principle holds that the law of the country where a ship is registered governs conduct on board. So a ship flagged in the Bahamas is, in a specific maritime law sense, operating under Bahamian jurisdiction even when it's nowhere near the Bahamas. Not lawless, just not American. Except, and this is where the second layer arrives, there's a provision of U.S. federal law called the Special Maritime and Territorial Jurisdiction, or SMTJ, that extends U.S. criminal law onto foreign-flagged vessels. For any offense committed by or against a U.S. national on a voyage departing or arriving at a U.S. port, that jurisdiction applies. Which means the same ship can be simultaneously subject to Bahamian jurisdiction and U.S. federal criminal law at the same time. Two overlapping claims on the same patch of deck. Not a loophole, the opposite of a loophole. For most incidents, a bar fight, a cabin theft, a confrontation that didn't cross into serious injury, this legal architecture stays mostly in the background. Ship security investigates, CCTV footage gets reviewed, statements get taken. The suspect may spend the rest of the voyage confined to their cabin, and when the ship reaches the next port, the cruise line has a straightforward tool available. Offload the person, remove them at the first opportunity.
That move does two things at once. It resolves the operational problem, the disruption, the ongoing liability, the security resource drain, and it hands the situation to local authorities if they want it. One efficient step that ends the cruise line's problem and closes their exposure simultaneously. For minor incidents, it's usually where the story ends. But some incidents are not minor, and for those, a different piece of machinery engages entirely. In 2010, Congress passed the Cruise Vessel Security and Safety Act, the CVSSA, and it changed something specific. Before the CVSSA, cruise lines had discretion over how they handled serious crimes on board. They could investigate quietly, settle internally, manage the paperwork in ways that didn't necessarily surface to law enforcement. The CVSSA closed that option. For a defined list of serious crimes, homicide, suspicious death, sexual assault, kidnapping, assault causing serious bodily injury, theft above $10,000, firing or tampering with the vessel, missing U.S. nationals. The cruise line is now legally required to notify the FBI as soon as practicable, typically within a day of the incident being reported. No discretion, no quiet handling. When a CVSSA crime happens, the ship's security response escalates immediately. CCTV footage is archived and locked. Medical center records are secured if they're relevant. The security log is preserved. This isn't improvised. It's a practiced sequence executed the same way on every ship because the legal obligation to hand over that evidence doesn't forgive sloppy procedure. In the captain, again, the captain has one more tool available that almost no one thinks about: the authority to divert the ship, to change course, alter the itinerary, and head for the nearest port where law enforcement can board. It's not common, but it has happened and the authority exists. Not the security chief, not the doctor, the captain makes that call. Which raises the question that's probably forming right now. Sure, but if this all happens in the middle of the ocean, what can the FBI actually do? By the time the ship reaches port, whatever happened days ago. The ocean is big, the distance feels like protection. The FBI doesn't come to the ship. They wait. For serious crimes on U.S. Nexus vessels, ships that left a U.S. home port carrying U.S. nationals who were involved in an offense, federal jurisdiction follows the voyage home. The SMTJ gives U.S. federal prosecutors reach over those crimes regardless of where the water was. The FBI's Miami field office handles more cruise ship cases than almost any other field office in the country. Agents who know the ships, know the ports, and have the protocol mapped before they ever step on board. Not improvised, standing procedure. When the ship docks at Miami, Tampa, Port Canaveral, agents can be at the bottom of the gangway. U.S. courts, U.S. sentencing, federal prosecution. The ocean was never the refuge. Which is also the moment, if you're the victim in any of this, where a reasonable question emerges. What happens to the rest of your cruise? The short and slightly jarring answer is, it continues. There is no pause button. The ship keeps its schedule, the pool deck stays full, and the buffet runs exactly as it was always going to run. The cruise line cooperates with the investigation, preserves the evidence, takes the report, and simultaneously keeps operating as a commercial vessel full of people who are on vacation. The two choreographies run in parallel on the same ship at the same time. It's a strange thing to picture, but the ship doesn't stop being a cruise ship because something happened on it. On the financial side of all of this, one note worth stating plainly: standard travel insurance doesn't cover criminal liability. If you're the person facing federal prosecution, that's on you entirely, and the legal defense costs in U.S. federal court are substantial. The cruise line absorbs its own investigation costs, security personnel, evidence preservation, port coordination, and doesn't pass those to passengers. Step back for a moment and look at the full picture. Ships carrying several thousand passengers run voyages of 7, 10, 14 days. Security teams, detention protocols, CVSSA reporting pipelines, federal jurisdiction handoffs. None of this is assembled after the fact. It's standing operating procedure, running on every sailing, invisible to anyone who doesn't need it. The international waters equals no rules assumption is almost perfectly inverted from reality. The ship has more surveillance coverage than most buildings you've ever been in. It operates under multiple overlapping legal jurisdictions. It has a holding facility, a mandatory federal reporting obligation, and a federal law enforcement handoff built into its home port arrival. All of it running quietly all the time underneath the buffet and the trivia nights and the poolside cocktails. Next time you're walking down a gangway at a U.S. home port, lanyards, souvenir cups, duty-free bags, the particular cheerful chaos of 4,000 people disembarking at once, know that somewhere in that infrastructure, a security log is current, a CCTV archive is intact, and the line between cruise vacation and federal jurisdiction is a single filed report wide. The ocean is not a gap in the law. It never was. It is a jurisdiction with a brig, a mandatory reporting obligation, and a federal agent who already knows which ship is coming in.
That's another one for the cruise files. If you want to learn more about what goes on behind the giant cruise ships, everything from the scams on board to the secrets below deck, subscribe, like, and share. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.